Hi, this is Kevin Pollock with the Mosby Heritage Area Association. Thank you for joining us for our first installment of our Retreat from D.C. series, a real-time video series covering the Civil War actions in Loudoun and Clark County from July 14th to the 19th of 1864. In the summer of 1864, the eyes of the citizens of the United States of America and the Confederate States of America were diverted to several different points in the Confederacy, as Ulysses S. Grant's federal offensives took place heading towards Richmond, Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, and various other points throughout the Confederacy. In June of 1864, a Union force advanced south up the Shenandoah Valley and reached the rail hub and Confederate Supply Center at the city of Lynchburg. Robert E. Lee's forces outside of Richmond, Virginia, dispatched his Second Army Corps under the command of Jubal Early west to the Shenandoah Valley, where Early opened up the valley and began moving north down the Shenandoah and crossed the Potomac River in early July of 1864. Early's forces were delayed in a one-day-long battle on July 9th outside of Frederick, Maryland, the Battle of Monocacy, and from there Early advanced his forces to the outskirts of Washington, D.C., where he and his troops could literally view the dome of the Capitol from within their lines. The night of July 12th of 1864, Jubal Early, realizing that his army was too exhausted and too tired to take Washington, D.C., decided to abandon his campaign into Maryland and cross back into Virginia to the Shenandoah Valley to refit and resupply his army. Early on the morning of July 14th, 154 years ago this morning, Jubal Early crossed with about 10,000 of his soldiers, over 3,000 horses and mules, and about 2,500 cattle that he had taken from the Maryland countryside behind me here at White's Ford into Virginia. From here, Early's force moved south and camped outside of Big Spring just on the north side of Leesburg, where he rested his army all day on July 15th. That same day, Abraham Lincoln began ordering a pursuit of Early's force from Union soldiers outside of both Washington, D.C. and that had just arrived in the area of Harper's Ferry. Jubal Early's army that was heading back to White's Ford and back to Virginia had a 21-hour head start on the federal forces pursuing him from Washington, D.C. In the terrible hot summer heat of July 1864, federal forces began pursuing Early and his Confederates and crossed here once again at White's Ford on July 16th of 1864. The federal crossing here presented quite the scene, as Union soldiers who had been marching on dusty roads in western Maryland to get here stripped off their clothes and marched into the Potomac River and crossed right behind me. One eyewitness said that it was the cleanest he'd ever seen the federal soldiers of the Union 6th Corps. After crossing the river, federal soldiers camped in this area and began their mission of locating Jubal Early's army as it headed west towards the Shenandoah Valley. Join us on Monday, July 16th in the early afternoon for our next stop, covering the fighting that took place at Heaton's Crossroads.